Dear fellow readers, I want you to imagine the following. Your country is at war, an atomic war to be precise, and the sirens go off in your city, as the city is under attack, telling you to go immediately to the next atomic shelter that is located in a subway station. You are one of the around 2,000 lucky people who get protection inside this shelter. The heavy big steel doors close and nobody can get in and nobody can get out. Now you're inside, the world is outside, you're closed off, together with these 2,000 foreign people. And then what happens? How long will you have to stay there? What do you have to do there? What's going on? This is the premise of the book Im Schutzraum, written by the German author Ulrike Serowy and recently published in the publishing house Edition Outbird. It is one of the most intense books that I read in 2025 and also the shortest. It is only 50 pages long and it fascinated me so much that I wanted to make a short video on it. So let's get started with the review properly. First of all, a proper welcome to this channel and this video. In case you don't know me, I'm Laura, a PhD student in comparative literature, and I make videos on literary classics and literary theory on here, same as Gothic subculture and Gothic literature. And today I want to make a review of this contemporary book written by Ulrike Serowy, who I interviewed for this channel already. It is called Im Schutzraum, as I said before, and I can show you the cover. It is a very dark cover showing the Zivilschutzbunker in Cologne Kalk. Kalk is a district in the city of Cologne, and this Zivilschutzbunker was, as the name says, a civil protection bunker, as the literal translation, built in the 1970s in the heat of the Cold War to protect people in case there would be a kind of attack. It was not really built to withstand a nuclear attack, but attacks of other kinds of weapons and also very heavy material falling down on the people inside that would be protected. And this Zivilschutzbunker in Kalk was built at this time, but it was never actually put to use. There were plans to build several of these bunkers around Cologne, but this was the only one that was finished next to the subway station. And it is still possible to visit this place as a historical site. And in the end of the book, there's also lots of information by the history organization that the Geschichtswerkstatt Kalk, it is an organization that preserves the place and also helps people to learn about it. And as Ulrike Serowy was living herself in Cologne, she was inspired by that place. And I find the premise of this book that I told you before so interesting because I think not many authors dare to explore such stories. So seeing that actually something like this could happen and what would people actually do, or how do they behave, and what is bothering them, what is on their mind, how do they learn to communicate and to interact with each other. So basically it is a little dystopic fiction writing, I think. Not really a dystopia maybe, but definitely dark, and it is very, very intense, especially because Ulrike chose the second person singular to tell the story. So you, as the reader, are addressed directly. You are working in a post office and you go immediately to this shelter when the sirens go off, and you're one of the lucky ones to get inside of this shelter. But you don't know how long you have to stay there, and what else you're supposed to do, or if you're even supposed to do anything. And there's old people, young people, children, and rich and poor and everything. You're crammed together with these people in this place. There's no fresh air, there's no real plan, and everyone has to figure out what to do, and you're just one of these people inside the story. And you are immediately drawn into it through this perspective, but also through this very concise and direct writing style of Ulrike that is still able to capture the atmosphere, this crammed and suspenseful situation very, very well. I like Ulrike's writing very much because you can read it very easily, but it's still very detailed and very precise, and it still also has something quite thought-provoking, everything that she writes. And this was the most recent and most fascinating for me as a book because it is so intense. I think it was the most intense of what I read by her yet. And also seeing that she actually explores a kind of social experiment and a situation that could happen to people, and something that, like our grandparents' generation, they know how it feels to go to a shelter in the Second World War, but we luckily, in Germany at least, we don't have any experience with that anymore. So this situation with the atomic bunker as an idea is still very relevant and something that is nothing you think about every day. And I think the way that Ulrike explores it is very, very good, and I can highly recommend reading it. I don't want to reveal anything more of the story because I think that would take away your experience. But let me tell you, these 50 pages are really, really intense and really good. I read it in one sitting and I've been loving every single page, and I want to give that book to everyone right now. I also like that Ulrike has the talent to write many very different books. So the last one that she wrote was a poetry collection that is inspired by nature and the different seasons. She's been talking about that on the Gothic Literature Festival that my last vlog was on, and she was presenting some of the poems while we were walking through nightly Bacharach, the village at the Rhine, and it was very atmospheric and very, very different. And before that, she wrote a novel that is both dark and funny and humorous. It is Highway to Hell. It is about a young student who has a side job working at a startup that makes money by looking after people for a whole week after they are already dead and lie inside their graves, and just to make sure that they are actually dead. And then the one thing that shouldn't happen, of course, happens. A girl inside one of the coffins turns out not to be dead, and they have to figure out what happened. And to figure out what happened to her, they have to travel through all of Germany and later on even to Iceland. And the whole book is also really, really great, very funny, but very, very different. All of her writing has been published in German. I think one of the books also has been published in English, or half of it is in English at least. I will link her work down below. It is great, a great read, and definitely worth checking out. If you're able to read German, of course, also if you're learning German, or if you plan to get better at it, or if you're generally curious, I would try to read her books. I also did an interview with Ulrike back in March of this year. I will link it up here and below in the description as well, We were talking about how she's inspired by many different things, especially the dark side of life, by Norse mythology, by metal, especially black metal and music, and how all of these things go into her writing, and I loved making that interview with her. So no surprise, I'm a big fan, and I hope you enjoyed this short review. As I said, love the historical context of this book. I love the premise, and I love the psychological tension that she creates in these very short 50 pages. Thank you, Ulrike, for writing such good books, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next video, hopefully. Until then, have a good time, and bye bye.